Was the purpose of your trip this Security Council meeting on Eritrea?
Yeah, we requested the meeting because we wanted to present our case to the Security Council. The Security Council had heard from others in the region when they went to Addis Ababa. They got a briefing from the Prime Minister on issues affecting the region and relations with Eritrea. So we wanted to present our case to the Security Council, called for it. 14 member states welcomed our request. The United States objected for a long time. They tried to accommodate, bring on board the United States. Finally, the United States came on board, but they wanted the others also to come and participate, which was not the original format of the meeting, but it was fine.
Exactly. So, my understanding is that you asked for it in June. It took some time for them to...
Yes, it took them some time. I think the idea was to enable the other delegation, give them time to come here.
And would you, was mostly what you were asking to be taken off the sanctions list, or just to explain your position on Somalia and other issues? What was the main purpose?
Two things. One is to call on the Security Council to take up its responsibility and obligations under its previous resolutions and also on the basis of international law, to take action with regards to Ethiopia's occupation, continued occupation of sovereign Eritrean territory in violation of the demarcation decisions. So that was the first part. The second part was to call again for the lifting of sanctions against Eritrea. And we also took the opportunity to explain to Security Council members the developments within Eritrea as well as our regional role and how we see developments in the Horn of Africa.
Someone after the meeting, obviously it was closed, told me that inside the meeting the U.S. had actually said maybe there's going to be more sanctions on Eritrea. Did they say that?
Well,
that they would move for it?
Well, the United States had a position that was different from the other members of the Security Council. Other members of the Security Council, all of them, spoke about the need for preventive diplomacy, active preventive diplomacy, so that the situation in the Horn of Africa would not deteriorate. Several members spoke about the need for Ethiopia to comply with the demarcation decisions. The United States stood out in being hostile to Eritrea and accusing Eritrea of many things which were not substantiated.
I was outside the meeting, so I saw it was Susan Rice went inside. From your perspective, has there been any change between the Bush administration's position and now the Obama administration's position on this issue?
Well, we had hoped that with the new administration that there would be better relations between Eritrea and the United States. Susan Rice and others, we worked with very closely with when we were part of the Clinton administration. We knew them very well. So we hope that there will be a better understanding of the regional situation and a more balanced and constructive United States role. Fortunately, we haven't seen that as yet.
And from your perspective, what explains the U.S. position on this?
Well, it's very difficult to say. They have decided to support Ethiopia, no matter what. They believe Ethiopia is their key ally in the region, and Eritrea has no problem with that. We have no problem with the United States having close relations, good relations with Ethiopia, supporting Ethiopia with no problems at all, because Ethiopia is our neighbor. The present difficulties with Ethiopia will be over sooner than later, we believe. We are neighbors, we are brothers, so anything that helps Ethiopia is not a problem for us. What we ask the United States not to do is that U.S. support for Ethiopia should not be at the expense of the people of Ethiopia, at the expense of Eritrea, and at the expense of the region.
I've heard that some Security Council members, things like Ethiopia offering peacekeepers for Abyei, that in a way that some of their diplomacy gets them friends even beyond the U.S. They're sort of viewed. Is that? How do you view their involvement in this?
Ethiopia's role in regional peacekeeping should not be justification for its violation of international law, for destabilizing the region, for calling for a new war against Eritrea, for threatening to use force against a member state of the United Nations. So nothing justifies Ethiopia's violations of international law in its destabilizing role. This is what we try to convey.
A diplomat I was speaking to before the meeting said that, and I don't know if this is true, you'd have to say, that Meles Zenawi has indicated some willingness somehow to try to give on this land issue, but this is the way it was put to me, doesn't want the President of Eritrea to gloat about the win, that it's more of there's a kind of a psychological or ego aspect to it. Do you feel that the land thing could be close to being resolved, or is it as intractable as it's been in the past?
No, it's not, but what's there to gloat about? There's nothing to gloat about. We say we went to war, we feel it was an unjustifiable war. Both sides lost about 100,000 people. And then we went through a process, a political peace process, peace talks for 2 years. So much opportunities we lost. Both Ethiopia and Eritrea are worse off because of this conflict. So I don't know what there's to gloat about. But even if we were to gloat, is that the reason for Ethiopia to maintain this situation of conflict with Eritrea?
But how could the Security Council make it? Do you have a proposal for how they could actually make them do it, or do you want to see a presidential statement or something more forceful? What would you have the council do?
Well, there are many things. One step would be for the Security Council to call for an arms embargo on Ethiopia, because it's clearly in violation of its treaty obligations and UN Security Council resolutions. All the more so because Ethiopia is buying arms now at the time when it's also asking for help because of the drought and famine situation in the country. This would create a better situation for peace. It would encourage Ethiopia to go for peace rather than go to war. What Ethiopia feels right now is that it can get away with things, that it supported the United States. It feels emboldened in its belligerent approach to issues. And at the end of the day, it's harming Ethiopia and all of us.
You're talking about those 200 tanks. Is that the number?
Yeah, that's just a part of the arms shopping that Ethiopia has been doing. They're also buying warplanes, unmanned aerial vehicles.
Is that mostly for the Ogaden conflict, or you think it's for use?
The Ogaden conflict is a low, small scale fighting. This is a population. It's a large population, but with limited resources, and they've been fighting for their legitimate rights for many, many years. The struggle goes back 40, 50 years.
I've also covered the Djibouti, the conflict with Djibouti about a particular pretty small piece of land, but it was a big deal at one point. Where does it stand between Eritrea and Djibouti?
Well, both Eritrea and Djibouti accepted the mediation of the state of Qatar. Now it's in their hands. It's making good progress. So we hope that this problem will be solved soon.
Qatar, they're pretty big in diplomacy now. They did Darfur, they're doing everything. At the World Cup.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
It's an important country now, region.
Speaking of, I have to. It just was in the news here in the United States a lot that the soccer players. What's behind? Is it been reported correctly? What happened with that?
No, a few soccer players decided not to go back to the country. It's not an extraordinary situation. The migration issue is a huge global issue these days. People are promised green cards or access to Europe or to the United States. I feel it's an opportunity that they cannot miss. They want to try their luck. And the migration is a big issue. I feel there are better opportunities in the US and in Europe and try to come here or go here.
Would somebody, this is sort of a more, and thanks for the, would somebody, a long-time UN person was telling me the other day is that because especially now that South Sudan has just become a member. They said they were here at the UN when Eritrea became a member state, got its independence, that there was a lot of hope, which I'm not saying it's all dashed, but they said, how has it worked out this way that there, you have a meeting, this was right after the meeting, that you have regional, a lot of conflict, a lot of criticism, some people call it bashing, Eritrea bashing in the meeting. What happened on this hopeful, obviously it's kind of a broad question, but is it really, does it come from just not having a clean break with Ethiopia, or do you think maybe you're just it's a young country and things are going to get as positive as they seemed at the beginning?
Well, in 1991, when Eritrea became independent, and there was the change in government in Ethiopia after the fall of the previous military government, those two events coincided with the end of the Cold War. And we felt that our region could have a new beginning. And we worked with Ethiopia, very closely with Ethiopia, and also with the United States, to transform the Horn of Africa region. Unfortunately, things did not turn out as we expected. Sudan, situation in Sudan deteriorated. Somalia, the government collapsed, and there was vacuum created there. Relations broke down between Eritrea and Ethiopia towards 1998. So that unraveled the original vision. But what Eritrea still says is there's no alternative to that vision. The Horn of Africa is an area of huge potential, very strategically placed, a lot of natural resources, a lot of human resources. So we believe we need to come back to the original vision of regional integration and countries working together. We do hope that the emergence of South Sudan, which is coming with a lot of international and regional goodwill, we are all supporting South Sudan. We believe that the emergence of South Sudan can create new dynamics in our region. Something that we're hoping can and will happen. But yeah, it's building a new nation, building a new state. There are many challenges, many difficulties, and we're going through a very difficult process. But what we have not done is forget our vision and our approach to things. We have remained very close to our population. We have tried to mobilize the energies, the skills of our people. We have tried to make very judicious use of our natural resources. And we believe that we are now coming out of this difficult phase in our history. The economy is developing now. And I think to some extent the reason for this push for new sanctions, unfortunately by the United States and also Ethiopia, is to prevent this economic takeoff in Eritrea. And if you look at what they are targeting, it's very interesting. They're trying to target the contribution of the Eritrean diaspora to the country.
Or to make it illegal to send money back?
To send money back, for them not to raise money for development projects. And we believe that's illegal in any case. But why do it? Because we have communities everywhere. And Eritrean communities are well known for being very hardworking, tax-paying, law-abiding, generally successful communities. There is no extremism in our communities at all. And one part of the reason that is the case is because they have strong bonds with their home country. And that should be encouraged rather than discouraged. Secondly, they're trying to target investment in the country, especially in the mining sector. And again, the mining sector for Eritrea is still a small part of our economy. It's other sectors like agriculture that are big. But they feel this is maybe easy to stop, to try to discourage investors. And it's investors from all over the world, including US investors, which are working in the mining sector in Eritrea. Again, something that should be encouraged in this financial climate that the world is facing. So we think we're making progress. This is an attempt to drag us back. But we hope that we continue
But do they, just because do you think, I mean, and again, it's just a matter of what you're sort of thinking, does the U.S. take this position as a way to support, its ally Ethiopia, or do they cite, in this meeting, do they cite what they've said is support for Al-Shabaab in Somalia, destabilizing, etc.?
Well,
Which way do they go?
Of course they talked about that because they cannot justify it.
Right, they can't just say the enemy of my friend is my enemy.
I cannot say that, but then again, that is true. It's not, Al-Shabaab is very big. So surprising that Eritrea is linked with Al-Shabaab because Eritrea is a secular country. Half Muslim, half Christian. We are the victims of extremism and fundamentalism. Osama bin Laden was just 8 kilometers across our boundary in Sudan for many years before we went to Afghanistan. We were the victims of the jihadist movement in the early 1990s. We have a proven track record of fighting terrorism. So we'd have no interest in supporting a movement like Al-Shabaab. We hosted a Somali conference in 2007. All Somalis, including the president of Somalia, the president, speaker of parliament in Somalia, civil society groups, parliamentarians, diaspora people, they all came to Asmara. The only group that refused to come was Al-Shabaab. And they said this meeting in Eritrea is a conspiracy to try to subvert the Islamic revolution in Somalia. And they went ahead further to threaten attacks, military attacks, to bomb the Eritrean capital, Asmara. So there's nothing that we have in common with Al-Shabaab. What we have said is there can be no military solution in Somalia. There needs to be a political process. And the political process needs to be inclusive. It needs to include everyone. Al-Shabaab, whether we like them or not, they have a presence in the country. And not all of them are extremists. So, they can be part of the political process if they want to. If they don't, then they further isolate themselves. This has been our approach. We have been critical of the United States policy in Somalia because we believe it is not good, it has made matters worse. In 2006, there was an opportunity for peace in Somalia. There was a semblance of order, of stability in Mogadishu. There were talks between the Islamic courts and the government of Somalia at the time. Things were looking up for the first time in Somalia. Unfortunately, the United States felt that there had to be this military intervention through Ethiopia. And things have deteriorated since then. We'll be critical of that approach. And it's not just us. There are many people, many countries, including many Americans who follow the situation in Somalia very closely, who believe that the United States policy on Somalia was wrong.
I mean, I was actually covering the Security Council then when the Ethiopians rolled in, and it was pretty. I mean, I think who was on the council at that time? There was very little opposition to the council. It happened. I remember it was like a Christmas or some kind of a holiday season.
Yes.
It happened very, very quickly.
It was on the 26th of December.
Yeah, no press statements, nothing. They had a few meetings. No, there was. It happened. It just took place.
Yes, but if you look at the Security Council resolution on Somalia, it was I think on the 20th of December. In December, anyway. And that Security Council resolution specifically talked about supporting the talks for peace, and specifically prevented any military role for the countries, the neighbors of Somalia.
Power talks, but the one I know that Ban Ki-moon, the Secretary General, met with your president, I guess in Juba, the day before South Sudan independence. What can you say about it? That we got a very terse little readout in which it just said they talked about regional issues. Maybe they talked about Libya. I forget which one he said he mentioned. But
no, it was essentially about Sudan and Somalia to some extent. And it's interesting. The Secretary General acknowledges Eritrea's hugely positive role on Sudan. He believes Eritrea's plays a very important role to support peace and stability in Sudan, and he asked Eritrea to continue that role, which is not reflected here.
Sure.
Any case, it was a brief meeting, but the board agreed to meet Secretary General can come to Eritrea. Because he's been many places, but he's not been to Eritrea.
I heard that your president asked for 3 hours. He said, if I had 3 hours with you, I could explain everything.
I don't know where that came from, but
Okay.
what the president said was this brief meeting was not enough
Sure.
to go into all the details, because it was on the margins really of historic celebration in South Sudan.
And then, I mean, one thing here is, I mean, we get reports from Human Rights Watch, a slew of groups. I mean, it does, at least, it seems to some that because of the military conflict, things are not as free as it could be. Like, I don't know if getting passports is for males of military age, can it take place? Freedom of the press. What do you? I mean, is there a trend upwards? Do you say there are no issues on that front? What do you make of the kind of human rights criticism of Eritrea from outside, either from outside or from inside?
Well, what we have is we have national service. Okay, national service is the US had during the Vietnam War, the draft. That is for all citizens, both male and female. The reason for the national service is the situation that we find ourselves in. People who have done their military service have their rights. If you try to escape from serving for national service, of course.
But are people's families that remain, or do they? I mean, is the punishment directly against the person who escapes, or for their relatives?
No, it is for the person who escapes, unless there are people who are complicit in somebody avoiding the draft and the national obligations. But you can come and see the country.
I've heard it's beautiful. I've heard
see the country for yourself.
Yeah.
No country in the world, I believe, there's no country that has no challenge, whether it's economic or political or human rights issues. And everyone has its share of its difficulties. But you find that it's an easygoing society. You find that it's a harmonious society. We live in a very difficult neighborhood where religious strife, difficulties, and violence are endemic. And as we are half Christian and half Muslim, we are able to coexist peacefully and harmoniously for many years. It's a safe place. We're trying our best to improve the lives of our people. If we can get peace, we'll be able to make quicker and bigger progress on all fronts.
This seems like a good place, and I like it. It's a good conclusion. That's really, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it.